In this PowerPoint, we're going to be talking about one class of antibiotics called penicillins. So to help you understand and get a picture in your mind of all the different classes, the penicillins were the first ones that came out. So there's penicillins, then cephalosporins, then there are fluoroquinolones, there are macrolides, as well as there are other miscellaneous ones that are out there. We'll also be talking about some antivirals for viral infections, and we'll be talking about how to treat tuberculosis, etc. So those are going to be in separate ones, but I want to start with penicillins. I have a really good YouTube video that I'm going to post that I think it'll really help put the penicillin understanding of penicillins together, just because there's a lot of them out there. There's some resistant penicillins that are out there, and it can be a little bit difficult, but the YouTube video gives a really good visual that I really would rather not recreate the wheel because it's already done real nice. Alright, so penicillins, they were the first ones to come out in the 30s and 40s. It's active against a variety of bacteria, has a low toxicity, and penicillins are highly allergic. Put it this way, there's a lot of allergies related to penicillin. So you'll see, and through your nursing career, that people are allergic to penicillins for a variety of reasons, but it's just one of the most common drugs to have allergies to. Also, penicillins include a beta-lactam ring, which is different than the other antibiotics. The beta-lactam family includes cephalosporins and these other ones listed below, which we will talk about some of them. I won't go through every single antibiotic because some of them you just will not hear of anymore, rarely used, but I want to go through the most commonly ones used that you'll be seeing as an inpatient, as well as I will talk about some outpatient medications. When you think of cephalosporins as the cousin or brother or sister to penicillins. They were made after penicillins. So these are actually bactericidal. So these weaken the cell wall, break the bacteria up, and they end up rupturing. There's also some bacterial resistance issues with penicillins because of just all the resistance issues that we've had, which I talked about in the last slides. So basically the bacteria just becomes smart, outsmarts the antibiotic. So penicillin was started out as penicillin VK. Also, what I'd like you to remember is that your primary penicillins that first came out, like your penicillin VK, as well as some others that we'll talk about on here, like nafcillin, those will treat gram-positive bacteria, not gram-negative. All right, but there are some penicillins that can treat some gram-negative now, and that's your augmentin, as well as some other ones we'll talk about as we're going through here. But think strongly that penicillins treat a lot of gram-positive bacteria. So why are these bacterially resistant? Inability for the penicillin to reach their targets. And I'm going to watch the YouTube video because it's really going to help you understand instead of me trying to explain it to you, because he actually draws pictures and stuff. All right, so let's think about what is a gram-positive bacteria. Well, that's staph. Staphylococcus aureus. It's on our skin. Skin infections can be from overgrowth of staph. Staph can be in the urine, etc. So penicillin was introduced, and actually it was made because of skin infections, I believe back in the 30s and 40s with the military or something like that. But anyways, this came out. It's for gram-positive because most things on the skin or infections were Staph aureus at that time. In 1960, 80% of Staph aureus in hospitals displayed some penicillin resistance. So Then they came up with your methicillin, nafcillin, that was then developed. And then those became resistant to the beta-lactamase. Beta-lactamases are a ring that is around the bacteria. Then we had MRSA that came out. So that has a unique mechanism of resistance. It produces these protein, it's called penicillin binding proteins that basically block the penicillin from even working. So MRSA developed this ability by acquiring genes that code for low affinity these binding proteins from other bacteria. So in other words, in layman's terms, or easy to understand it, is that this methicillin-resistant Staph aureus is it's outsmarted the methicillin antibiotic, the nafcillin. It's outsmarted penicillin, and it's able to basically not be responsive to these antibiotics. So then they had to come up with something else. How are we going to treat that? This is the one thing with MRSA. MRSA has some gram-negative properties to it and gram-positive. So to understand gram-negative and gram-positive, gram-negative has 3 layers. It's a thin cell wall, has additional outer membrane that's hard to penetrate. And gram-positive is 2 layers. It's relatively thick wall, but it can easily be penetrated. So that's why gram-positives are usually pretty easy to treat. Gram-negatives are a little bit harder to treat, which is why we've had to get sophisticated through the years and make more antibiotics, and there's all these classes of antibiotics that are out there. So there's beta-lactamases that is a ring around the bacteria that the penicillin has been unable to get through. So what they had to do is what they did is they made clavulanic, which is will break through the beta-lactamase ring, which you'll see in Augmentin, as well as a couple other ones that'll be used IV. So bacteria produces a large variety of these enzymes specific for penicillins and other beta-lactam antibodies. And so beta-lactamases is an enzyme. It renders the penicillin inactive. So again, they had to be, chemists had to be more sophisticated and figure out how are we going to get through that beta-lactamase in that bacteria. I know these slides are from the textbook, so if I start talking over it, because I want to kind of go back to this one. So what did they do? Then that's when they came out with Augmentin that can get through that beta-lactamase. But just to do some classification, there's narrow spectrum, which is penicillin sensitive. So when you think penicillinase, think penicillin, the drug penicillin. Narrow spectrum is the penicillin resistant. You have broad spectrum, and then you have extended spectrum penicillins. You don't need to know these. You just need to know that there's different classes of penicillins that are out there. Pretty much the narrow spectrum penicillins, like for example, if you have strep throat, penicillin is still the drug of choice. It works really well. We know it's a gram strep. The rapid strep is gram positive, and we know that it works for that. Then you have your more broad spectrum penicillins, which would be more your Augmentin, because you're covering some gram positive and gram negative. All right, so penicillin G is bactericidal to numerous gram positive, some gram negative organism. It's the least toxic, and it's the most common cause of a drug allergy. It's not really given too much anymore. When I say penicillin for strep throat, you're going to give penicillin VK it's called. So penicillin allergies. Penicillin allergies, I'm not surprised because it was the first antibiotic that came out. So they've had to do a lot of, they've done a lot since then to decrease the allergies in antibiotics, although they still happen. You can do some skin tests to check for penicillin allergy. There's people that are in their 60s that say, well, my mom told me I almost died when I had penicillin when I was a kid, but they don't remember. So you can do some skin tests for penicillin allergy to see if that's really the case or not. Now, if there's a mild reaction to penicillin, you can go to the cousin or brother of that and go to the next class over, which would be your cephalosporins. But if they've had any history of anaphylaxis, you don't want to give any penicillin or cephalosporins because they're so closely related in how they're made. So if you're going to remember anything from this lecture on penicillins, remember that penicillin allergies are common. That if they've had a mild reaction like a rash, don't give penicillin, but you could go over to the next step of the antibiotics, which would be the class of cephalosporins. But if they've had anaphylaxis, don't give penicillins or cephalosporins. They're so closely related. There's different types of penicillin allergies: immediate, accelerated, and delayed. Obviously, you know what anaphylaxis is. The treatment is epi, respiratory support. And again, you want to get some skin testing just to make sure that that's when you would check to see if they have that true allergy. There are some drug interactions, aminoglycosides, which is another type of antibiotic, bacteriostatic antibiotics. So basically mixing antibiotics can sometimes cause an interaction, and probenicid, that's for gout. Remember that? All right, so Penicillinase-Resistant Penicillins. So first penicillin came out, and then what they did is they came out with these, nafcillin, oxacillin, and dicloxacillin, which still work, but they don't work for MRSA, and they don't really work for gram-negative. So although they still work, they work really with just like your run-of-the-mill gram-positive bacteria. They're not given as much, though. All right, so here's some broad spectrum. You have ampicillin, amoxicillin. So I'm sure you've heard of amoxicillin. Again, amoxicillin's good for, you can give that for strep throat also, which is probably what you normally see because penicillin VK does have some side effects to it that people don't like, a weird taste in your mouth, some nausea and that kind of thing. So amoxicillin's a little more tolerated. Remember, this is for gram-positive. You can have some rash, diarrhea, and that kind of thing for that. And again, amoxicillin used to be for sinusitis, but since there's some resistance, then Augmentin is now first line, because remember, Augmentin can get through that beta-lactamase because it's mixed. So there's also some Pseudomonas that's a gram-positive. But we have some Pseudomonas penicillins now because they're resistant to your nafcillin, your methicillin type penicillins. Well, now we have to mix them. So they're broad spectrum, they're sensitive. So you have your tisarcillin and piperacillin. And again, the YouTube video is going to show you a lot about that, so I think you really understand it. Now we have some beta-lactamase inhibitors, which I know I've already touched on, but the clavulanic acid, sulbactam, and tazobactam, if you look at your Augmentin, it's going to be penicillin and clavulanic acid in there, and that's what that is. If you look down below, what you're going to see in the hospital a lot is the piperacillin and tazobactam, that's Zosyn. And again, remember, these are still penicillins, but it's that beta-lactamase inhibitor, so they can, they actually work on a lot of these gram-positive and mildly gram-negative bacteria. All right, so Timentin, Augmentin is given orally, so you'll see that out if, you're sick yourself or your family. Instead of giving like an amoxicillin, they can go to an Augmentin. Sinus infections, Augmentin. So those are really good for like sinuses, because you're thinking of what you're treating. So gram-positive, you're thinking otitis media. Gram-positive is in the upper respiratory tract. Sometimes you'll see it in the urine. Mostly with elderly people, you'll see some gram-positive. Little bit of gram-negative coverage with these. So this is what you'll see that for. You will not, this is not good treatment for pneumonia, because with pneumonia you're looking at more gram-negative, and you want to treat for strep infections with that. And with that, you would go a little bit stronger antibiotic. All right, so that is it on penicillins, and then watch the YouTube video. I know it's a little long, but I think it'll be very helpful to put it together.